11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think Morrell won it.
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
All right, the mute button was on. Calix will be joining us momentarily. He really wanted to make sure his return was grandeur or something. You know what I mean? So I'll go live and you do your grand entrance when you come on. It's all good, right? I'm gonna start off. It's like a last minute show, so there's no like thing we're about. You know what I mean? Shout out to Skywalker Boxing Media in the chat right now. You guys can subscribe to his channel. Shout out to Team Batman Boxing, right? And all that good stuff. Look. What the fuck is Nacho Bernstein talking about? And why are people doing interviews with other people while they're eating, bro? If I sat down, okay, we're doing an interview and they're eating, I would say, and they said yes, I'd say, well, how about you finish eating? Who the fuck wants to interview a dude, right? While they're over here eating and shit, like you're like, hey, Nacho, so what do you think about Canelo? Yeah. Okay. Lo que pasa, I have a napkin, by the way. Lo que pasa con Canelo es que todo está comprado con Canelo. Everything's bought out with Canelo. Everything's corrupt with Canelo. Everything's just it's all a bunch of bullshit when it comes to Canelo. It's all of it, right? Right? And you're here like, well, what are we doing? Don't normalize. Like, don't bother dudes while they're eating. First of all, right? Second, I don't buy the bullshit. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy that the only time you got to interview me is while I'm eating. I just don't buy that bullshit, right? Especially when all these interviews, when they're eating, they're taking a sweet ass time eating. They chew slow. They chew slower, right? They're wiping out their mouth more because they're talking while they're eating. You know what I mean? Like something's just not right. I'm just saying, right? I don't want to hear the clanging of the plate. Like clang, clang. The dude's cleaning out his plate. Like he's still eating like a poor person. Growing up, I grew up poor. We would clean out that plate. Clang, clang. They would scrape that shit. Everything got scraped. All of it, especially those food we rarely got. Then they got scraped to everything. I'm telling you right now, everybody who grew up poor knows what I'm talking about. Right? When you finally got that New York strip, you know what I mean? Some of it's still there. You know what I mean? Like you didn't really script the frijoles because you got that shit every day. Like nobody gonna be scripting that shit, right? But when it came to certain food, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So anyway, and that's the reason a lot of you still eat with forks, even when you're supposed to use a spoon, because you like the fork because it was long and you could scrape the plate that way. That's why you still do it. Like you ever wonder a lot of you still eat like you get a plate of rice or you're eating it with a fork? That's why, right? But Nacho Bernstein's still eating like he's poor. Maybe I don't know. Did he not get paid? All those fights with all these fighters, including Marquez, who made millions, did he not get paid? What's going on? Who's over here hating on Canelo? ¿A qué Canelo no? Click, click, click. Okay, mira. Canelo no. No le pagaron a Bivol. Like, get the fuck out of here. He said they didn't pay Bivol. Bro, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? Calix can't get on for some reason. What's going on? Calix can't get on. Well, we'll have to figure that one out, but let me. I have his Twitter right now, so I'm going to just DM it to him. Calix can get on, ladies and gentlemen. His security clearance to the HCP StreamYard was, I guess, revoked, I guess. I don't know. I didn't revoke it, right? So let me get it here. Okay, give me a second, guys. Give me 1 second. Calix was removed from the premises, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Who removed Calix's security clearance? What I want to know. Right? That's what. But I don't believe that shit at all, JC. This whole like if you grew up in America, you're not poor. Well, relative to, right? So like I grew up poor, right? If you grew up and there was a pompa outside for the water, you were poor, bro. Right? If you lived in a home that had less rooms than people, you're poor, bro. Right? Like the amount of family members I know that had like 2-bedroom homes, but they're like a couple with like 7 kids, right? Like it just, and they somehow made it happen, right? This is where every sofa was a bed, the lazy boy was a bed, like everything was a bed, right? Like you made the bed. Okay, like only Mexican households do I know of that they use sleeping bags to sleep in their own house, right? They were camping at their own home just to make ends meet. So it is what it is, but all right, somehow made it happen. So Calix, I just sent him the link, and we got to figure out what's going on with that because he definitely needs security clearance. So you know, I don't know what's going on, but I guess he's been off so long, right? That's how long we haven't been on, by the way. It's been that long. So, Chelsea Pearl says, I live in California. If you ain't making 200K, you poor, my dog. I'm barely making it by skin of my teeth. Man, that's where we're living today. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like, you know what I mean? But I get it, but saying. All right. So I just sent the link to Calix. Nacho Bernstein. Nacho, great coach, great trainer. You know what I mean? But he's got this vendetta against Canelo. Like he really does, bro. Every time they interview this dude, red meat for him is any question about Canelo. And Canelo is, I mean, if you just listen to him, you guys, you think that the channels on YouTube hate on Canelo? You think some of these accounts on Twitter hate on Canelo? Let me tell you something. They got no, even those channels are like, whoa, that dude's going a little too far here. Like it's holy shit stuff, bro. The guy is saying he did an interview where he's saying they didn't pay Bivol. And that when they raised Bivol's hand, they basically told him, well, you ain't gonna get paid because you didn't do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And to me, it's like, what's going on with this guy, bro? Let me see if I could play the audio and I'll do a translation. Because unfortunately, Calix doesn't speak great Spanish, so I'm gonna have to translate for him too. But not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just putting it out there, you know what I mean? But okay, I think I found it. All right.
Yo ya sabía que que le tenían retenido su sueldo. Acaba de hablar de Bivol, que no le pagaron.
All right, so Nacho saying that Bivol just came out and said they didn't pay him for the Canelo fight. That's what he said.
Yo ya sabía que le tenían retenido su sueldo y
Nacho saying that he knew that they withheld his money. How did Nacho know? I don't know. Apparently, when you drink some of that haterade, it gives you the ability to read minds and travel back in time and look at books that you have no access to, because that's what Nacho, that's what the haterade could do. You notice like a lot of these dudes when they drink this haterade, they have these abilities to know things that are not provable, right? But they just know it, right? And it's not because they're hating. They're drinking the haterade, but it gives them these superpowers to just know these things. Or maybe Bivol told him, right? Maybe Bivol called Nacho, of all people, just to vent to him. Nacho, they didn't pay me. Like, I don't even know what accent that is, by the way. But this is crazy.
no le pagaron. Y le pagaron que eran, creo, 7,500,000 o 5,000,000.
So Nacho's just throwing ballpark numbers out there. Like 7 or 5 million, whatever. They didn't pay him. He's just throwing numbers out there. It was 7, 5 million. It's only $2 million difference. Details. Nothing crazy.
$1,500,000. No quiso cobrar porque también lo obligaron a que perdiera. Y él nunca se dejó. Nunca
Let me play the whole thing.
quiso. Y peleó pensando en ganar y ganó. Y lo que trataron de imponerle, le levantaron la mano y dice, pues entonces no te vamos a pagar, pues no cumpliste.
To my husband Abraham, my family, friends, fellow veterans, Medal of Honor recipients,
So
Patriot.
Nacho Bernstein. First he says Bivol came out and said they didn't pay him. Now, is that true? Did Bivol come out and say that? I don't know. Can somebody find that for me, by the way? Where Bivol came out and said that? And then he said he already knew. And he threw a ballpark figure. He said, 7 and 5 million. And then he follows that up by saying, that they withheld his money and that he didn't really say anything about it, even though he's saying he said something about it, but whatever. He's saying he didn't want to, he couldn't really demand it because part of the deal was that he was supposed to lose, but he refused to lose. And in refusing to lose, when he beat Canelo, the moment they raised his hand, he realized they were not going to pay him. Cuckoo! This is some cuckoo for cuckoo. Bro, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? What in the hell is going on right here? This idea that they were going to pay him $7 million if he lost, but he refused to do it, and Nacho knows this. Somehow, maybe Bivol told him, I don't know, somebody in his team told him, right? This is some crazy shit. This is like content creators that circle things in red circles level shit. This is the type of shit I would expect like Dante's Boxing Nation or Boxing Ego to come up with. This is the type of crap that this is. But this is coming from a very respected boxing trainer. Here's where this is coming from. Now, I don't know how old this is. I just saw it on my feed. It was posted by the Spit Bucket on Twitter. But first of all, why are you interviewing this dude while he's eating? Why are you? I mean, that's just disgusting. And I would love to hear the follow-ups to this. Like, how do you know this, Nacho? Talk to me. Right? But how do you know? I could guarantee you, he said say something along the lines of, oh, porque así es el boxeo, así son las cosas. He said say some bullshit like that. Well, yeah, that's boxing. That's just how things are. He said say some shit like that. It's gonna be a very vague answer. This is some crazy shit. Where the fuck is Khaled? Like, what's going on? Like, what's this grand entrance, right? Has taken a while, bro. He said he got it like 12 minutes ago, right? People are gonna blame me. Like, these other don't want to let him on. First, he cut off his clearance, and then he pretends he sends him a link, and then all of a sudden Calix can't get on. Well, something's going on. They're like, no. Calix has had all access to get on, right? It has nothing to do with me. And it is what it is. If Calix can't click on a link, then I don't know what to tell you guys. All right? So can somebody explain to me, is there anybody out there that despises Canelo more than Nacho Bernstein? This is a whole nother level, bro. This is the guy, by the way, that they use to hate on Canelo and to justify it. This is the dude right here. See, even the Mexican legends say that shit about Canelo. And then they quote Nacho Bernstein saying some crazy ass shit like this. This is not even 92 Acus. This is crazy shit like this. And he despises Canelo, right? I mean, he'll say he doesn't. All right, like, but we all know what's up. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, you finally met. I don't know what's going on here. Like, I don't. People are like, blaming me, and then, well, why are you censoring Calix and one of the mana? I don't know. But
did they think I got deported? Because there's a rumor going around.
They were saying that because of changes to DI, you were no longer a host.
Do you?
Because apparently you're supposed to know good Spanish, and I kind of gave you like I kind of overwrit that a little bit. You know what I mean? It is.
I'm the DEI hire of HCP. But do you hear me good, by the way?
Yes,
I've
had
quite. Look, I've had quite.
I mean, that mic sounds crisp. I mean, it sounds great. Yes, perfect.
Look, none of the logins worked for me. I was like, did I get fired? And did not know because none of the logins worked for me. And then my computer's acting up, and then my headphones not working. You see the headphones aren't on, so can't figure that out. So I was like, let me just get on there. Let me figure this out. But we're here. We're here after. Look, I think it's been a 4-month layoff. I feel rusty, like a PBC fighter.
You know what I was thinking? I was like, you know what? Yeah, he's like 20 minutes late, but we're already like 4 months late. So like at this point, it's still what it is. Well, we'll get all that sorted out. I'm talking about. Have you seen a Nacho Bernstein video?
I have not.
Well, even if you did, you don't know Spanish, so I'll
is he getting salty? Is he getting salty again with Canelo? Okay, is that what's happening?
So I already played it, but I'll kind of brief to you what he said. So he basically said, by the way, I don't know how old this video is. I just saw it on my feed by the Spit Bucket, but still, I mean, haterism that doesn't have an expiration date. Nacho Bernstein claims that Bivol came out and said he wasn't paid for the Canelo fight, and that Canelo, that there was an agreement to lose in order to get paid, so they withheld his money, but he refused to lose, right? Nacho said he always knew this. He always knew that they withheld his money, and yeah, he said the moment they raised his hand, they told him that, well, you're not going to get paid, and it was $7 to $5 million that they refused to pay him because he refused to lose. This is what well-respected trainer Nacho Bernstein, right? One of, if not the best Mexican trainer of all time, is saying about Saul Canelo Alvarez. This is what he's saying. This is like cuckoo. It's reaching that level.
It's cat.
And I would expect this from like a Boxing Eagle or like somebody like that, but like I don't know what the hell this is. But that's what he said. Any thoughts, y'all?
It's sad. It's him and Juan Manuel Marquez seem to have it out. Canelo, right? Look, it's obvious when you go past that line to where it's just absurdities and it swerves into conspiracy theory stuff, right? And he heard that Bivol didn't get paid, right? He heard this from somebody. It's just one of those things. I'm pretty sure if Bivol didn't get paid 5 to 7 million, we would have heard that from Bivol at this point, right? But it's important to note, when did this interview come out? Was it from previous months or was it this week? Because either it's Nacho trying to inject himself into fight week, knowing that anti-Canelo stuff is going to get play, or it's somebody else using this clip from months ago, trying to inject a clickbait video into fight week because they know Canelo's going to get clicks. Look, I was talking to Liza about this on Twitter yesterday.
You were talking to Liza about Canelo? No way.
I replied to one of her tweets because she was like, basically, there's no buzz for this fight, and she's right? But
well, that's true.
It's a sad thing in reality that these two fighters, Benavidez and Morrell Jr., have been so chronically and severely mismanaged, mispromoted for a 4 to 5 year period at least, that this is what we need to lean into, because I hear people saying they're walking into MGM and there's no ring when they walk. Everybody knows the ring is there for every fight when you walk in, and there's no promotion for this fight at the casino. Instead, you're seeing stuff for Lunar New Year, which is a big deal. And by the way, I'll be celebrating Lunar New Year in Beaumont, Texas this weekend instead of watching this fight live. And I like this fight. I do like this fight, but this is still one of those fights that I prioritize other things over it. That's just me. I think it's going to be a good matchup, but it's one of those things I can wait till Sunday morning to see. And that's sad because these are two, they look like talented fighters, but they've been so chronically mismanaged and mispromoted that the only thing they can really be connected to is Canelo. And that doesn't work anymore because Canelo has clearly gone in a separate direction. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into Canelo Benavidez thing. All I'm saying is that's gone. It's over. We're not getting that fight. It's obvious, right? So they're still leaning into that, and I'd rather them just let their fists do the talking, and that's what they're going to do. But what happens is when you mismanage fighters for 4 or 5 years, you can't all of a sudden make up for lost time with one fight. And that's what I was trying to reply to Liza yesterday, is there's no way to properly promote this fight. There's no way to do it because it's not in the budget. The people who are putting on this fight can't afford to lose money. They can't do like Turkey Al-Sheikh and say, hey, Bud's been a hermit for all these years, but guess what? We're giving out free cars. Eminem's performing at the event. We're going to cop this thing to the gills. They're able to lose money, right? And try to make up for lost time. The people putting on Benavidez and Morrell fight right now can't afford to lose the money, and they can't make up for lost time. You can't overnight just all of a sudden say, oh, we're going to promote this fight. There's no way to properly promote this fight. It's impossible to do. So where you can get casual audience. Both of these fighters can walk through. And look, I like both of them. I like the talent level. I think there's a higher ceiling there. But the sad part about it is both of these fighters can walk through any mall in America right now, and nobody would know who they are.
You're telling me, like, well, first of all, no one's at the malls in America anymore. But that aside, I don't know if you've been to a mall lately. They're kind of no one's there.
Wherever.
But right at airport. Let's say that. But
Disney World.
Anywhere. But shout out to the malls in America, like ghost towns. But I like to go because nobody's there. It's like a quick boom boom. But so check this out. Have you been to Sears lately?
No. No.
What do you mean? No, nobody likes to go to Sears anymore. What do you mean? But I guess my thing is this. These fighters, like in specifically talking about Morrell and David Benavidez here, but just in general. And we're going to talk about another fight in a little bit, who's on the undercard of a woman's fight, to kind of attach it to this point I'm going to make, right?
Yep.
Shout out to the females, by the way. They're doing their thing. Like, you know what I mean? This is not a sexist show, right? Although I'm not the sexist one, like, you know, but I don't know about Callie. But
by the way, no, go. I don't want you to lose your point, but I'm gonna make a point.
So it's going to lead to Mr. Junior over here, but like, here's the thing: these fighters want too much money, right? Right, and for what they're giving in return, or what they're able to produce in return, right? So, like, what Benavidez and Morrell want to get paid, especially Benavidez, right, forces PBC to put this fight on pay-per-view to try to recoup some of the losses, right? And because they're not going to make it back with just a gate or pay-per-views, they don't have a TV contract where they could, like, a good one anyway, where they could put this fight. They're not going to box on Showbox, like, you know what I mean, or a Pro Box. I'm sorry, now it is on YouTube, right? They're not going to fight for $30,000, right? If we were to get their market value, like if someone assessed a real market value, meaning what they sell, what they produce, the amount of viewers and interest that they generate, right? If they had a real market value we can attach to them, this fight will not be on pay-per-view. They will be making nowhere near the amount of money they're making, right? And it's probably like one of those old school level, like boxing after dark fights or something to that effect. And if that's what it was,
I think it'd be championship.
Right,
yeah,
maybe. But what I'm saying is nobody would be complaining about the fact that it's on pay-per-view, because it wouldn't be on pay-per-view. Nobody would be looking at it, how much of a failure it's going to be, because we would be looking at it from a different scope, right? But now, because of what you're demanding, what you want to make, and you saying, you're doing interviews, Benavidez, the same things like first of all, can you get a figure? Is it 50 million, 60 million, or 70 million, right? Next week it's going to be 80 million. We offer Canelo 70 million. We were going to pay him. You weren't going to do shit. Canelo's drawing powers where you were using to offer him money. That's the reality. You weren't giving him nothing, right? So the reality is, we're in a situation where guys want too much money and their market value doesn't show that. So we're forced to put these fights on pay-per-view. Everyone knows they're not pay-per-view, right? So they don't sell anything, and it hurts boxing in general. It just makes the sport look bad. Like these guys can't even sell. So you're making a mockery of the sport in that sense, right? And it's not like these boxers are going to humble themselves any day now, but like, you know what? Maybe I'm not worth this much. And that's what we have going on right now. And the reality is, everybody knows, well, eventually Turk Al-Sheikh will pay for it. So I'm going to continue to make these demands. I'm going to continue to think I'm worth more than I'm actually worth. And to me, it's causing this issue. And that's, in a nutshell, that's why people are criticizing this fight, because they know it's not pay-per-view. Everybody knows it's not a pay-per-view worthy fight, right? And that's opening the fight to getting criticized. That's what that is. People keep saying, oh, it's a good fight. It is a good fight. But it's not a pay-per-view fight.
exactly.
Right? That's what dictates that. You know what I mean? So, and now we got other fighters that, I don't know, Alex, they're over here holding their, like, I believe what I'm worth. Pay me what I'm worth. I'm gonna fight for what I'm worth. All right. So when you're ready to pay me, I'll be over here fighting on this undercard for far less money. All right. Until you're willing to pay me, Eddie Hearn. All right. I'm gonna go make less money now on this undercard until you're willing to pay me, Eddie. Is that not what's going on?
It looks like that's what's going on. It looks
Did he make more than $2 million after taxes in this undercard fight?
Yeah, but they're being taxed less. That's what you're not seeing. Because they're making less money. They're being taxed less.
This reminds me of like when I would do overtime, right? I still do overtime. And all these broke ass people tell me, why do you do overtime? Is you gonna tax you? And I'm like, you're just gonna get taxed more. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm gonna have more money in my bank account. Like, I'm gonna have more money. Like what do you mean? Yeah, but the government's gonna come and take money from you. So why do it? Like, no, I'm gonna take the time and a half. I'm good. But there's people that think that way. Like they just think about how you got taxed more. Well, yeah, because you made more.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I don't know. That's just me. But aren't they fighting in? Where's that fight? Is it not in New York?
It's in New York.
It,
You're talking
it,
about Brian Norman Jr., right?
yeah. Don't they have like a high tax in New York? Or is this just me? Like,
They
no.
do.
So you're gonna get. Does he have a tax exemption?
I don't know, but first of all, I want to say as far as that event, the girls did a good job of promoting because that was WWE. It's clear to me now that the posters had paint on them.
Oh,
It's clear to me
come
that both of
on.
them, look. It's clear to me at this point that both
No.
of them were in on that. That was always weird to me. It was always weird to me that they were going to check the security
They
cameras.
put red paint on the
Security
poor
cameras.
girl on the poster collar.
We never got security footage, and then it's clear to me that that was planned by both teams, and it was good
What?
promotion.
No,
It is
that's
good
the
promotion,
craziest
yeah.
thing I ever heard.
No. There's
And they're
paint.
going back to
There's
New York,
paint.
by the way.
There's paint on the promotion poster. There's paint on it.
Yeah, but that
Clear.
doesn't mean that it was all like that
Come
was
on.
part of the plan.
Come on. It was
Like,
good job. I'm not knocking it
what
at
I'm
all.
saying, I
Good
think
job.
it happened, and I think they're being kind of slick about it because Ryan's not their fighter, so they put red paint on her.
Mhm.
That's what I think is going on. I think
So
it's mind games.
we'll never know anyway. But here I have a few negative things to say more until we get to the positives, because there are positives about this weekend. And I know you're looking forward to that Clarissa Shields fight. I know you're chomping at the bit.
Fighting for real? Like, I'm asking for respect. Or are you just joking?
You didn't know Clarissa was fighting this week? You didn't know the GOAT, the greatest women's
Like,
fighter?
I know she has a fight scheduled, but I don't know. It was this weekend?
You didn't know she was fighting this weekend?
So she's going to compete against the David Benavidez fight?
I don't know if she's fighting Friday night, Saturday. I doubt they put the GOAT on Friday night. I doubt
Can somebody find out when she's fighting? Is it the same night? If somebody in the chat, but you go ahead.
She could be fighting same night. I don't know. Here's the thing. There are positives about this fight, Benavidez Morrell, a lot of positives, and I think that's going to be a hell of a matchup fight. And I want to talk about the matchup part of it and the styles, because I think this thing could get explosive, and I think it could get very bloody, which is good. Not for the fighters in particular, but for fans, that's good. The negatives, though, both of these fighters, this is another thing that they don't do a good job of over at the PBC. Samson Wicks doesn't do a good job. They don't carry momentum. We see with Sebastian Fedora, right? Sebastian Fedora
marinated the fight.
Yeah, he's got maybe all the gold chains on his neck is like strangling the circulation to his brain or something like that. I don't know what it is, but the dude, he just cannot capitalize on momentum with his fighters. Sebastian Fedora has the biggest victory in his career, and then what happens? He can't get an opponent. They're talking themselves out of fights, multiple fights, and now he's gonna fight whoever he's gonna fight for a title or whatever. And nobody's gonna be looking for this fight, right? So we got that, right? But it's a lack of momentum going into pay-per-views. You cannot have two dudes who fought once. They both fought once in 2024. Both of them fought once in 2024, and both of them had lackluster performances in 2024. And it was their first fight at 175, both of them.
Callis, you don't understand that Samson, right? He is the master at marinating fights.
He's the master.
Right? He's a master at it. Imagine if this guy was in charge, like he was a prep cook and he was in charge of marinating food at a restaurant. Man, the front line would be getting freaking food with molds on it and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Smelling nasty shit. Samson, what the fuck is this? I marinated it.
You be getting like the dessert before the main course and like the appetizer last. Like no, man, I order my food. I just want my food in the proper order. Just give it to me in the proper order at the right time. I didn't mean to be here 5 hours tonight.
No, you're
What I'm
just hating
saying
on the
is,
restaurant.
there's no momentum going into this fight. It's a great matchup stylistically,
It's a
but
good boxing after dark level fight.
they're building these two fighters up, and there's a trend of that, right? Because I'm watching Andy Cruz and I'm watching Diego Pacheco fight over the weekend, and I'm like, they look good. They look good, but especially Andy Cruz, like this dude's supposed to be the next Lomachenko. He's supposed to be a killer. And I see people on Twitter, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at how he lines up. It's like he's good. He's good. He's a good fighter.
Right.
Why is he fighting twice per year? Like, let's get these guys developed. And another thing that bothers me is I've been talking about this for about 5 years. The lines are muddied now between prospect, contender, champion. So you might as well just let Pacheco and Andy Cruz fight for titles now. I understand. Like, if I'm looking at this like we looked at it 15, 20 years ago, we'd say those dudes need to, they need to stay at the prospect to contender level and fight more and build themselves up and work on. But now you might as well throw them in there because Christian and Billy, William Skull, they're in the talk to fight Canelo in May. So you look at the top of 168, all these dudes are flawed. You might as well. Pacheco is at the same level that Billy's at. Andy Cruz is at the same level that a bottom level top 10 guy at 135 is at. So you might as well throw these guys in now. But what I'm saying with Benavidez versus Morrell is there's no momentum going into this fight. When Benavidez fought Vodzik with the silent G, he started off strong and then he faded. And I'm like, well, he did. Memo Heredia is not in the corner. I know what this is. And then, we find out he's got cracked ribs and broken hands. And broken
he had cracked ribs.
Yeah.
Right. And this was said after the fight, by the way, and Canelo totally ducked him. Even though you were saying you couldn't even fight in September.
He couldn't fight again in 2024. Is what
not,
I was told.
But here's the thing, Alex.
I can't fight again in 2024.
I'm expected to believe, by the way, not only were his ribs cracked, I mean, they were offering $70 million to fight Canelo in the process.
I don't think Benavidez, to defend Benavidez on that, I don't think he knows the actual numbers. That's the thing. Like, I think that
why are you
team is over here working, and then Benavidez over here.
We're not going to defend it because why is he opening his mouth then?
Exactly. You're right. You're right about that.
So don't talk when people talk about shit they don't know nothing about, and then they want to claim ignorance. Nah, bro. Then say I don't know what they offered him. Is what he should say.
But this is the thing too. Okay, Morrell,
give him a pass. What's going on?
I'm not trying to give him a pass. I'm just giving an explanation. I don't think he knows what's going on. But with Morrell,
here's a pass, Benavidez. Just walk around with it.
With Morrell, same thing. He fights one time in 2024, and then it's at 175, and he fights Hot Rod, and then he fights so bad in that fight, D-style, that I got dudes, and they think, don't shoot the messenger, by the way, because I'm on Twitter joking around that he had the sun in his eyes. He had the sun in his eyes in the fight. He fought so bad that I got dudes telling me, you don't understand. He had the sun in his eyes. And the sun works differently now because the sun only gets in one person's eyes and not in the other person's eyes, even if they're in the same spot. So the sun was in Morrell's eyes during the fight in Los Angeles. So we got to give him a pass because the sun was in his eyes.
I mean, it's not like he's from Cuba where it's very sunny and known to be a very sunny place. And
he's not from a tropical climate at all.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not like he's I don't know.
But what I'm saying, D-style, is it's constant. Like, can we build these fighters? Can we just let these dudes fight the top competition?
But that is the idea.
And then whoever ends up being the top two guys fight, and then we can put them on pay-per-view, and that's fine. But instead, we try to prop these fighters up to something that they aren't, and then we try to manufacture artificially this fight.
PBC reminds me of me in my freshman year in high school, right? I didn't do nothing all year, right? And the last 2 weeks, I was begging my teachers to let me make up all the work, and they did, and I somehow did it, right? So I made it all up at the end, right? Even though I didn't do shit for the whole year, right? So that's what people see. They don't do anything, and they just come up and they just give you a fight, and they expect people, right, to just accept it. Like, what's a good fight? If you're a real boxing fan, you'll support. That's their mentality, right? That's what they do.
And they're gonna get mad when Fire Stick Boys are outside. The Fire Stick Boys are going to be outside like
I mean,
the Fire Stick Boys are going to be outside for this fight all over the place. And it is what it is. Like, you're not doing anything to this is a boxing fans fight. Like you said, though, 15 years ago, this would have been an HBO boxing after dark card. I would argue it would be a championship boxing Saturday night card. I would argue that, but either way, it wouldn't be on pay-per-view, but they have to put it on pay-per-view because they can't finance this fight if they don't put it on pay-per-view, because both fighters are going to be asking for too much money. And in particular, Benavidez, they're going to be asking for money that they can't get you back. They can't get this money back if they don't put it on pay-per-view. So you have fights that have to go on pay-per-view out of necessity, in order to put them on, which is it's a big problem. But we're told it's not, though. We're told if you want to see your favorite fighters fight, you got to pay. If not, you're a broke boy outside. You're a broke boy just doing broke boy things.
All the people that say these things, I can almost guarantee you, don't buy into the pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they're over here lecturing everybody about how, no, you got to accept it. It's pay-per-view, yada, yada, yada. But no one's buying these fights. So
Morrell Jr. is not the type of fighter that. It's the thing that bothers me about Andy Cruz. Not everybody's Lomachenko. Like that's probably a one of one. It's going to be hard, even given all of your amateur status. Even if you fought 300 amateur fights, 400 amateur fights, it's tough to go into the pro ranks and go to. But what I'm saying is, it's tough to go into the pro ranks and fight twice per year.
What you're saying. Like they want to fast track him, like Lomachenko was fast tracked, right? And people will say, like people think anyway that you're dogging him by saying, well, he ain't Lomachenko in that sense.
But what I'm saying is, my bigger point is this: D-Style, they're fast tracking him without fast tracking him. It's weird. It's weird space. Okay, so Lomachenko went second fight, fought Salido, and then he fought Gary Russell Jr. 4 months later after a loss. So they fast tracked him. They said, we're going straight to it, and I appreciate that. Let's get to the point. Chauncey talks about this all the time to me, like, why do these dudes have to fight deers in cages going out the gate? Just get right to it. And I appreciate that about Lomachenko. But the thing about Morrell Jr. and Andy Cruz, if you're going to have them fight twice per year, it's got to be good competition. It's got to be top competition. Let's figure it out. Morrell Jr. has been fighting twice per year since he became a pro 2019-ish. He's got 11 fights, and this is his first real step up. So if you're going to fight twice per year, you're not getting the development if you're fighting 2 tomato cans per year. This is a huge step up for Morrell Jr. this fight. It is. It's a big step up for him.
To your point, because
they're not getting properly developed. Andy Cruz just needs to fight. If this is a level of competition, just fight. Just fight 5 times per year.
Everyone's development is different, obviously, right? But to your point, I was going to bring up examples like Mayweather and De La Hoya. Like they didn't fight a world champion in their second fight, right? But they had to develop them, and it took a couple of fights to get it going, right? But the point is, they did it within like 1 or 2 years. They had dozens of fights, right? It was done relatively quickly. It wasn't done like in a matter of like, we'd have to wait 5 years for Mayweather Jr. to get through his tomato cans to finally step up and fight a Genaro Hernandez. Like, that's not how it happened, right?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, and he already had, enough fights there under his belt. So very important context to keep in mind. But with all that said, right, because I'm not shocked at all, right, that you were talking to Liza about David Benavidez. Like, you know what I mean? How much of a draw he isn't, right? Like, that doesn't shock me whatsoever. Liza shitting on David Benavidez doesn't shock me, right? But shout out to Liza. Who do you have winning this fight?
I have
Benavidez.
It's tough. First of all, can I make a quick point on what happened just this past Saturday? Pacheco and Andy Cruz. I just want to make this clear.
I put the sleep.
I think both are good fighters. I do. I think both are solid fighters. But once again, the levels are muddy, and it's one of those things where you say both have severe flaws that are clear. But at the same time, the lines have been so blurred that we used to say, okay, he's too flawed to fight for a title now or win a title. He's just not ready. But now you just got to say the guys are ready. Why? Because Rolly Romero won a belt. He moved up and won a belt against an 85-year-old, right? And he was kind of gifted that. William Skull has a belt. Like, you have guys just being handed and emailed belts these days. So at this point, as flawed as they are, you could say Pacheco, Andy Cruz in the right situation. Baranchyk has a belt. Is Baranchyk that much better than Andy Cruz? I don't know. We'll find out. But when these type of guys have belts at this point, then you say, yeah, they're flawed, but let them take their shots. Move them up already. Let's go. They're fighting twice per year anyway. Move them up. Let's go. Let Pacheco. If Canelo wants to fight Pacheco, give me that fight. Whatever. Pacheco versus Berlanga and Billy Munguia. There's some good There's some good matchups to make there. They're all flawed, to be quite honest. Same with Andy Cruz. But as far as this fight, the positives of this fight is Benavidez was promoted as a monster at 168. We'll find out if that carries up to 175 in cruiserweight. This is his second fight at 175. I have my doubts as far as what happens after this with the winner of the undisputed at 175 between Bivol and Benavidez. I have my doubts there, but he's certainly a big pressure fighter. Not as much at 175, but he's still a big 175 pounder. And he applies pressure. And as Emmanuel Stewart used to say, pressure that's applied smart from a big fighter is much different. He used to say that about Margarito. It's a different type of pressure. He's a big fighter who can put combinations together. He is slow-footed, and I stick by that. I think he's slow and he moves in straight lines, but he is so big, and he does have fast hands. You see that. People say his defense is underrated. I don't know. I just think his offense is so good and overwhelming that I think that becomes his defense. I don't think his defense is underrated, to be honest. I think it's okay. With Morrell Jr., what makes this fight interesting to me is he's a Cuban fighter who understands how to fight with a pro style. Whether it's great or not, we'll find out, but he's going to sit on his punches. And he's going to put punches together. And that's why this fight is going to heat up eventually, because Morrell Jr., he's an explosive fighter. He's very athletic. He's good lateral mover, but he's not using lateral movement like Erislandy Lara against Canelo, where he's just running and then you have complete degenerates saying, oh, Lara was robbed. You know, it was nothing like that. That's not going to be this type of fight. Morrell Jr. is going to throw punches. He's going to put punches together. He's not going to come in with the same game plan that Lara had against Canelo. He's not that type of fighter. I don't think anyway. We're going to see, because there's going to be exposure therapy for him. It's a big step up. Right. But with Morrell Jr., the thing that makes this fight interesting to me and why the odds are so close, and they moved more in Benavidez's direction the past couple of days. Benavidez is now minus 230. Morrell Jr. plus 176, but that's close to toss-up territory, especially in boxing. They're giving Morrell Jr. a good shot of winning this fight, and I think I know why. He's good at stepping to the sides and then unloading those straight shots, and Benavidez is going to walk into a lot of those shots. He moves in straight lines. He's an explosive fighter, and if he can take a punch, that's the big question here to me. Can he take Benavidez's punch? Have we seen him in there with as close of a puncher to Benavidez? I don't think so. So if he has a good chin, D-style, we got to fight. We got a damn good fight. Because both these guys are going to have very flashy punches being landed on each other. I think a lot of rounds are going to be tough to score. And I think we could have a close fight here. It all depends to me on how good is Morrell's chin. That's the wild card to me. Because he's explosive. He's good at using lateral movements. He's good with his straight shot, and he really sits on his punches. He is a pro style fighter. A lot of Cuban fighters come in and they're more amateurish. He's a pro style fighter. So I think we got ourselves a fight. Why not? I'm picking the upset.
It should be interesting.
I'm picking the upset. I got Morrell Jr.
Okay. That could happen. I'm not going to rule that out, obviously, but I am picking David Benavidez to win this fight. Here's the interesting part about Benavidez, right? He does have fast hands. I think his punches are definitely heavy because he's a big, heavy guy in that ring.
Mhm.
And I do think guys feel that. But at the same time, I don't think he's like this wrecking ball either in terms of his punching power. I think fighters have said before that fought both of them like Plant, like Canelo hits harder, for example,
Mhm.
right? Which makes sense. Even though Canelo's smaller, he just had that one. That if we compare punch for punch, right? He has a harder punch, but what he does have is volume and a good, very good gas tank. And look, overrated and underrated are kind of relative. Like it's kind of like according to whose rating are we rating it, right? So I'm going to stay away from those words. But what I'm going to say is that his defense is good, not great. I don't think he has. I don't think he's like Margarito, for example. I don't think he's just. Like, I don't think he gets hit as easily as that. I do agree that his offense is basically his defense. I do think guys get tired in the second half, and that's why they start landing less. I think that's why, because you see what happened in the Plant fight. I kept hearing people say, "Well, look how little. Look at the percentage landed of Plant in the second half. It dropped significantly." I don't think that's because Benavidez was doing some Mayweather Whitaker stuff in there and was making a mess. No, it's because Plant was now exhausted. He was tired. It's a lot harder to land when you're getting tired. And that's going to be the key point here. In the second half of this fight, that's where I want to see how Morrell does. Is he going to be like when he's sitting? I'm going to be looking very closely when he sits down in that corner after round 4 or 5. How hard is this dude breathing? Right? And like, when he sits down in the corner round 8, does he look exhausted in there? Does it look like he's just hanging on? Is his output decreasing dramatically? Right? Is he so exhausted that he can't really aim and fire the way he was in the first half of the fight? Because that's exactly what happened to Caleb Plant, right? So that's going to be the ultimate question, right? Can he hang on? Is he going to be able to keep up in the second half of that fight? We're going to find out about this guy's stamina. We're going to find out about his heart, quite frankly, right? We're going to find out how bad he really wants it, because make no mistake about it, even if he's dominating the first 6 rounds, first 5 or 6 rounds, what I'm paying attention to is the second half of that fight and how tired is he going to be, right? Because it is possible this is just a style that's going to be hard for him to keep up with. In a fight I'm thinking about, right? The styles are different in a sense, but is Angulo versus Lara. And if you remember, Angulo was getting to Lara, right? Nowhere near as skilled as Lara, but the pressure was breaking him. He dropped him several times. And Lara causing a hematoma on the eye of Angulo, because Angulo was kind of easy to hit. And Angulo kind of turning his back and no longer wanted to get hit in the hematoma is the reason that fight was stopped, right? But that's going to be the interesting part. Is he going to be able to take that pressure?
Can you go both ways with that? Right. Can you go both? In other words, when Benavidez fought Vodzik, he clearly, the second half of the fight, tailed off big time.
Yeah.
Now, is that due to Vodzik hurting him early on in fights? But can Morrell Jr. hurt him early on in the fight? Is that due to Memo Heredia not being there to give him his secret Memo Heredia shakes?
I don't know about that.
He's back with Memo Heredia now, but you need to throw that stuff in the mix because he wasn't with Memo, and all of a sudden he's tailing off late in fights. Now he's back with Memo. So are we reading too much into the last fight? Are we reading too much into he gained some weight, so maybe he was a little slower? Maybe he didn't gain the weight smartly. I don't know. I just think that we're going to get the best. We're going to get the best out of these two fighters. In this fight, I think they're going to fight.
What are you trying to say, Calix? Let's rewind. He's with Memo. What is that? What do you mean?
He was clearly a different fighter without Memo last fight, right? So was that due to Memo, or was it due to?
Are you saying he's juicing with Memo?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying maybe Memo is.
You are saying something. You're saying
no.
He's with Memo.
I'm saying maybe Memo is the MVP of the team, and they took the MVP out of the mix. Maybe that's what it is.
So you're talking about his strength and conditioning coaching. You're talking about his contribution as a strength and conditioning coach to the team.
And he didn't
Whatever
seem
that might.
as strength and conditioned in the
Gotcha.
Vodzik fight,
Okay, all right.
late in that fight. So now he's got Memo back. So how much of that? So what I'm saying is that could go either way. Let's say that isn't the case, and he's just slower and wears down with the added weight at 175. Let's say it's that, right? Maybe it's that. And maybe Morrell Jr. touches him up like Vodzik did early in the fight, and then Benavidez fights more on his heels like he did the second half of the Vodzik fight. Because I'm just telling people, go back and watch the second half of the Vodzik fight. Benavidez did not look good. So what I'm saying is you could get that part of it too. Morrell Jr. is an explosive fighter. And then if you look at Benavidez's resume, right? The big step up was recently he had Plant and then he had Boo Boo. And I mean, Vodzik. So how strong is that really? Maybe it's strong. I don't know. But if Morrell Jr. isn't one of these hyped up PBC guys, right? Let's say he's not. Maybe he is really talented. Maybe he's much more talented than Boo Boo and Caleb Plant.
Well, he's
Then
definitely
maybe we
bigger.
got ourselves an explosive fight, and then Benavidez will be the guy who wears down late. There's a lot of wild cards in this fight. We just don't know a lot
Okay.
about either one of these fighters. We don't.
So,
People will say
you
we do. We don't
but
know.
is it fair to say we know more about Benavidez than Morrell?
We know more about Benavidez, but I'm gonna tell you this too. Like people are saying Morrell Jr. is gonna be shocked by the big lights. Fellas,
What? There's no big lights.
no, but just because Benavidez fought on pay-per-view in Vegas, look, Morrell Jr. was fighting in front of 5,000 plus comp people in Minneapolis too. Like the PBC loves putting fighters where they don't belong, and Benavidez is fighting on pay-per-view, and Morrell Jr. is fighting in Minneapolis, even though he's Cuban, which is weird. But he's fighting in front of 5,000 plus people, so he's been in there in front of crowds. It's not. I don't think that's going to be the deciding factor. Ultimately, I think what happens here is both fighters fight up to the level of competition. They really want this, and we're going to get whoever the better fighter is going to win. There's no excuse.
Look, I'm a firm believer that iron sharpens iron, right? And if all these guys were all fighting each other, right, that they would elevate all each other's games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would have better fighters in a sense. But unfortunately, these guys fight twice a year, and we don't really get that. But I'm going to go with David Benavidez, and I'm going to go by late round stoppage. I believe that Morrell's going to start strong. I think he's going to have some good moments. He might even get a knockdown in this fight. I'm not going to officially say that's what I'm predicting, but he might get it.
That sounded like a prediction to me.
But what I'm going to say is that he's going to start strong. He's probably going to be a hit on everybody's scorecards after 4 or 5 rounds. But then it's going to be a tight shift, right? Maybe the memo effect, let's call it. It's going to happen. There's going to be a shift in the fight. And I'm just saying, like, he's a great strength and conditioning coach, right?
He is.
And so, and then of course, he said take over, and it's going to be a late round stoppage, is what I'll say.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. All I'm saying is nothing would really shock me because I don't know as much about Benavidez as we should know. We don't know as much as we should know a decade into his career. And we certainly don't know much about Morrell Jr. because he walked in the gate.
He's younger than Tank, Alex. I know that's not saying much, but
no, I understand that. I understand that. But certainly we don't know much about Morrell Jr., even though he's been in there. He turned into a twice per year fighter right away. We only have 11 fights to go off of, and it's not great competition. So I'm just going off of the eye test. And that could be very deceptive. So it's a tough one to call, but I like the betting odds. I think they're about right. I don't see much value either way. I think they're about right. Benavidez sitting at minus 230 seems about right to me because you got to respect Morrell Jr.'s athleticism. You got to respect that he sits on his shots and he has sent people into a coma. So the guy, he can pop. He can pop, and Benavidez will walk into shots. This is going to turn. What I love about this is I can't see it not being an action fight.
Okay.
Morrell Jr., I think he's going to happily oblige a fight. But
So,
maybe that's going to be to his demise.
by the way, I hope everyone's ready because the GWOAT is going to be fighting on Sunday.
It's Sunday.
She's fighting on Sunday, bro. Why is she fighting on Sunday?
Because that's what the GWOAT can fight on whatever day she wants. She can
Is
fight on
it
whatever
because
day
like
she wants.
Benavidez Morales is too much to compete with? Is that what it is, or
No way. No way.
I don't? Maybe she
She's the
got.
show. If she wants to go on Saturday night,
undercard, or why not be an undercard of this fight?
there's no Clarissa Shields on an undercard. Are you kidding me?
I mean, I don't know. I heard it helps grow your profile.
No.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It worked for Katie Taylor and other fighters. It worked for Christy Martin. I don't know. It's just a way to grow your profile. It's what I heard, but
We don't do that.
Okay.
We don't do that.
Fighting in front of 2,000 people in a 20,000 arena is a way to go over them.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that on a Sunday. But we talked about Brian Norman Jr. earlier. I just want to say that it's a sad state of affairs that fighters, it's not just fathers doing this. It's the managers, promoters around them. These guys, they continue to steer these guys in the wrong direction. And I still cannot believe I had people telling me that Brian Norman Jr. turning down a fight against Boots Ennis for 1.7 million, whatever it is, was a good idea.
What was it before taxes?
Right. Before taxes, pre-tax. And he should be fighting on the undercards of women's fights instead. And if he fights, you don't understand, because if he fights 6 times against this level of competition, he'll eventually make the 1.7 million, right? And forget that he's doing it. It's taking him more work and more time. It's smarter because he's fighting a lower level of competition. And you just need to understand that. And it's smart because he's still young. He's 23, 24. Yeah. He's still young and he's got time. But what these guys don't understand is they don't have time.
They don't have time. Here's the interesting thing. What I'm trying to figure out, even though I disagree with that whole notion, like I disagree with Brian Norman Jr.'s father and them turning that down for, like, I disagree with their business model mentality of it, because I don't think they're making more money. But that's at the end of the day, that's their problem. But here's the thing: what I don't understand is when we have boxing fans making these arguments, right? Boxing fans that are not just acting like normal fans. Like, I don't know, like just saying things like, hey, Brian Norman Jr. against Boots is a good fight. I would like to see it. I wonder who would win that fight. Can Brian Norman Jr. actually beat Boots Ennis? Well, let's break it down and talk about. No, they don't talk about that. That's not what boxing fans want. They would rather, right, put on their make-believe suit and their make-believe tie, right, and then go out there and play lawyer, right, and fanager for freaking Brian Norman Jr., right, and tell people like you and I that we're full of shit. We don't understand the business of boxing. That if we understood the business, we would understand that it's better for Brian Norman Jr. to turn down this fight. Why should Eddie Hearn's fighter make more money than Brian Norman Jr., even though Boots Ennis is Eddie Hearn's fighter? Even though Eddie Hearn's the one putting up the money. Even though Brian Norman Jr.'s promoter is not putting up any money, right, for that fight. But what do we know, right? I thought that would be a great fight. And if Brian Norman Jr. wins, and if you're a Brian Norman Jr. fan, and for all you out there swinging off his nuts, right? Why don't you tell him that you think he could win that fight then? You know what? I think you beat Boots Ennis, and imagine what that would do. That would make you a unified champion. Think about your legacy. Think about the accomplishment. Think about how much more of that would mean for your leverage power moving forward in negotiations, right? But the problem is that they don't believe he could beat Boots Ennis. That's the problem.
They're assuming he's going to lose.
They're assuming
don't assume he's going to lose while at the same time acting like he has this huge ceiling and he can do great things in the sport. Great fighters, you assume they're going to win, is what you do.
Plus, it's not a death sentence when you finally lose. And this is where, Calix, I keep hearing people tell me, oh, we're past the O and we're past that era. No, we're not, right? The way these fighters move when they have an O and they don't want to take any risk, it's still happening.
Yeah.
Because they actually believe that if they lose the fight to Boots, they made a stupid business decision by taking the 1.7 million, because now they're never going to make money ever again because they're going to have a loss in the record, right? And what people need to understand is this. The moment fighters realize and fans realize that after you lose, you could still make money. Okay? Like after you lose, you could still generate. You could still make a lot of money in the sport. Once everybody realizes this, because I don't believe most have realized this, right? Then they will realize it. But there's another fight I want to talk about, speaking of O's and losing their O's and all that. But before I get to that, right, I want to talk about his fight first. Undercard, right? I actually like the fight. Rematch. Brandon Figueroa against Stephen Fulton. I thought Brandon Figueroa won that first fight. Although I'll admit it was a close fight. It was. I'm not saying it was a robbery or anything like that. I scored it for him, but it was an exciting, good fight. But after watching a fight with Carlos Castro, I'm just gonna say this. I think Brandon Figueroa is more built for featherweight. I think he's better at featherweight. I think he's not going to have to train himself the way he was at 122. I think he's going to be bigger and faster in this fight. He's going to be stronger. There's going to be a bigger disparity in the strength. And I think he's going to beat your boy, Stephen Fulton Jr.
My boy?
Your guy.
My boy?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Figueroa, another guy, it frustrates me. Fought once in 2022, fought once in 2023, fought once in 2024. An action fighter, right? An action fighter who has a lot going for him, who has been shelved a lot. And it's just so frustrating. Another guy I could talk about that I think is being mismanaged right now, mispromoted, William Zepeda. Arguably the most exciting fighter in the sport. And once again, not going to be in a title fight in the next fight. So it's frustrating to see action fighters be misused, and Figueroa is one of them. But the thing is, going into this fight, who else is inactive? Fulton Jr. Now, he just had a fight, but I thought he lost the fight. A lot of people thought he lost the fight, and he definitely looked ring rusty going into this fight, and he looked different than before. So how much did the innerweight fight take out of him? Number one. Are we going to see closer to Roman fight, which Fulton Jr. looked great in that fight? Are we going to see closer to what we saw in the last fight against Fulton Jr.? I agree with you. I think Figueroa is going to translate to 126 better than Fulton Jr. So I agree with you there. So I think the trajectory is a little bit different. I do want to push back on something, though. There are content creators out there saying, you guys don't, you always say you want to see fighters fight in tough competition. And then.
So let me bring that up. So, because I was going to say something about that, and I want your opinion. So I know what you're talking about. And shout out to True School Sport.
It's him, and I saw a couple other people doing it. I'm not just pinpointing him. I want to
and shout out to him. Met him in Vegas. Great guy. But you know, and he has his opinion. But I think there's more nuance, and it's not as simple as. I think he's making it very black and white, the issue, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole concept of what his argument is, fans keep saying they want to see the best fight the best, that they don't care about the just go ahead and do it, right? But then when they finally lose, everyone just throws them away. They don't think anything about them. They don't appreciate them. And Stephen Fulton's a great example. He went to Japan and he fought and he lost, but I appreciate him, and most people don't appreciate him. And he doesn't understand why, and that's why he thinks that fans are capping when they say they don't want to see the best fight the best. Mm-hmm. So I just think there's so much nuance and so much to unpack with that. So, and I think you were going there anyway. So
it was Fulton Jr. You throw Errol Spence in the mix. Hell, I've even gone after Bud Crawford, and he's undefeated on this. And I stated this earlier with Sebastian Fundora, who, by the way, got knocked out and then came back from that against Tim Tszyu, and we gave him credit, right? We gave him proper credit for going back in there in a tough competition. We expected him to lose to Tim Tszyu. He wins the fight, right? And we give him credit for that. But thwarting momentum, inactivity. It's to me, it's the biggest issue in the sport is the lack of activity. So anybody doing it, whether wins or losses, is going to get some criticism from me if I'm being consistent. And it shows in my pound for pound list. Why is Inoue my top fighter on the pound for pound list? Why is Bam Rodriguez climbing into the top 4 or 5? Because of the activity. They're constantly fighting and putting on great performances when other fighters are fighting once. Maybe they'll get to a second fight in the year. It's the lack of activity. What happened after Stephen Fulton Jr. lost to Inoue? And by the way, when he fought Inoue, what did you and I say? We gave him full credit for going over there. And we said, you need to keep going back there. That's where the money is in that weight class. Keep going back over there. And we give you credit for, they had full intentions of him fighting Figueroa and not Inoue. And he said, no, we're going to go fight Inoue. And he went and did it, and we gave him credit for that. And so did the Japanese boxing fans. They're high-fiving him, all this stuff, right? So we all gave him credit, but what happens, D-Style, is that's in July 2023, and we get to December 2023, and we don't hear anything. And then we get to February 2024, we don't hear anything. And then we get to May of 2024, we don't hear anything. For the love of God, does this dude still fight? Does he still fight? I understand he got his brains beat in, but at some point, the dude's tweeting and he's like, I want to get back. I want to get back. Sparred 27 rounds today. I want to get back. And he's not back. The dude disappeared for 14 months. And that's the complexity that you talk about. It's not a black and white issue. Errol Spence got his brains beat in. I understand. But you're not back yet. It's been a year and a half. So what am I supposed to do with that? Of course, if my big soapbox issue is activity, inactivity, and you're not fighting, I'm just going to treat you as a boxing fan like you don't exist. I'm sorry. It doesn't have anything to do with wins and losses, your O being taken away. It's, dude, you're not fighting. And it's the reason you came back, probably the big reason you came back and looked like complete crap, looked like trash. All right. And then they're going to throw out the excuses. Well, he's with this guy, and then he was supposed to fight this fight, and this manager. Well, he shouldn't be over there. He had opportunities. And it goes back to what you've done in the past is going to come back and bite you later on. You can't all of a sudden on fight week say, why isn't Benavidez versus Morrell being promoted better? You can't possibly promote these guys correctly. You can't do it. They can't lose money on these fighters. Why would they put all of this promotion into these fighters when they've been lacking on promotion for 5, 6, 7 years on these guys? You're not going to make that up overnight. And it's the frustrating issue that I have with these fighters. They're simply not active enough. They're not active enough.
There's even more to it, which I'm going to add here. And a lot of it isn't necessarily Stephen Fulton's fault, but it kind of is. So let me explain. When Stephen Fulton went to Japan to fight Nacho Inoue, you saw all the love he got. Right, that dude never been treated like that by anybody. Right, he got all the love. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. Right, the Japanese fans showed him all types of love. Right, the commission over there, very transparent. You never hear anybody. Honest to God, I have not heard many, if any, complaints about the commission over there in Japan. And we're talking about fighters from all over the world that fight over there. You rarely hear any like real complaints like that, right? I'm not saying it's 100%. There's never complaints, but you don't hear about a lot of crazy stuff. Rarely do you hear about a referee in Japan that didn't see like a fighter getting beat up to death, and then they stop it too late, or you don't see 70-year-old like dudes with the brain capacity of a Joe Biden refereeing fights like they do in the U.S., right? That's what we have here sometimes. Guys that should be retired, have been retired. But all that aside, right? We have content creators here, egg on the whole thing. His training didn't do him any favors, right? When you're going around saying, "Oh, this guy, he's illegally stacking," and I have a concern about that. When you're over there, you're about to make you're gonna make more money than you've ever made in your fucking life. You're starting to throw accusations out there. And then we have content creators on here saying things like, in a way, he doesn't like getting drug tested. He doesn't like getting drug tested. And then he thinks he's arrogant. Oh, really? A fighter is arrogant, you pieces of shits. Like, of course he's arrogant. He's a fucking fighter, right? But you can't be arrogant in Japanese. No. You got to be humble in Japanese, right? The fact that this dude shows off while he's fighting, for some reason, we have a problem with it when Inoue does it, right? So that makes him arrogant, right? So fans have to hear shit like that, and then fans have to hear, right? And this is where it gets to a point where it's not necessarily Fulton's fault, right? But when I gotta hear things like he's gonna expose Inoue, right? And you're all gonna realize that the American fighter, right? The only reason he's undefeated because he hasn't fought an American, right? It's the only reason he's undefeated. Inoue's a fraud, is what people were saying. They were calling him a fraud. That's what they were calling him. So what I want to know, what were these content creators right now, right? Hard on the paint, really concerned about the respect of Fulton, right? Where were they when this guy was getting called a fraud? That's what I want to know. Where were you when they were saying these Japanese fighters aren't good? They're fraudulent. The only reason he wins fights, these Japanese fighters can't win fights without stacking their wraps. That's the type of crap that was being said. But I'm supposed to feel sorry because people have forgotten about Theo Fulton. It's not that they care or don't care. They forgot about him. That's what happened. That's what happens when you're inactive. And we have content creators out here saying things like, well, if he fights him, I don't want to hear it, Fulton, because we know he's stacking, even though they were still accusing him of stacking. Even though Fulton's, when Naoya Inoue was getting his hands wrapped, the trainer would go like 2 loops, look over at his at Fulton's trainer and say, is that good? Fulton's trainer would nod. He would give him 2 more loops. How's that? We're good. Are we good? Are we good? Right? They did that on purpose so they could shut the fuck up. Right? So until we get dudes on here, right? Like we have people out here saying that the Japanese fighters are juicing. That's the only reason they're winning. I got news for you. If anybody's juicing, it's probably everybody. But whatever, right? So they're juicing, they're stacking their wraps, they're fraudulent, they never fight Americans, that's the only reason they win. I think that's a bigger problem, right, than Fulton getting forgotten about because he's been inactive. All right? Because that's really what it is. How am I supposed to praise somebody if he's not around?
In what other sport does a dude disappear for 14 months and people still care? Like if you do that in tennis, you drop out the rankings. Any individual sport, you do that in NASCAR. Like you do that in any individual sport, you drop out the rankings. It's as simple as that. You don't make the all-star game if you sit out a basketball season. So why would people think that, oh, you guys just forgot about this guy after the performance was 14 months ago?
I just want to know.
And then he comes back and looks like
Scottie Pippen. Well, why are people still talking about Scottie Pippen when I watch an NBA game? What's going on? Scottie Pippen. Why don't we talk about him? That's how long these fighters are out, it seems. They're out for years. And we're like, why aren't you guys praising them? Like, well, what do you mean?
I don't understand. Like, why are these guys still on pound for pound rankings when we barely ever see them? I don't understand. Why are people getting mad at me for having Inoue top of the pound for pound list when he's doubling?
I want you to think about this, Alex. Like, and I want the whole chat to answer me this question, right? If it was the other way around, if Inoue was the one that got dominated and stopped in that fashion, right? What would people, American content creators, be saying? What would their conclusion be about Naoya Inoue and his whole career and his whole legacy? If it was the other way around, would they just like not be talking about him? Would they just not be praising him to the moon, or would they be doing something else? The standards are a little like we don't have like a level playing field here, right? Like when American fighters get just a little bit of a taste of what fighters outside this country have to deal with in this country, right? all I hear is all this complaining. Oh, what do you mean? Why they treat him like this? And like at the end of the day, just imagine the way Naoya Inoue would be treated if he was the one that got dominated, lost every round, was dropped and stopped in style. Imagine the fact that a lot of these American fan bases were talking so much shit about Naoya Inoue, right? Convinced that he's about to get exposed. The fact that people are still saying, hey, you know, Fulton guy, he's all right, a little inactive, but you know, like him to fight more. But I think you should just be happy with that, actually, given all the circumstances, quite frankly.
Yeah, and can like one thing for the boxing fan channels, right? It's one thing for them to do it, but American boxing journalists, I'm getting so sick of them pampering these American fighters. For the love of God, man, can we ask more of these fighters? You can't ask Brian Norman Jr. Why can't I? Why can't I ask him to do it? Why hasn't Benavidez and Morrell Jr. fought each other already? Like, why can't I ask these things? Why can I not? Look, Jake Paul is gonna fight his brother Logan Paul, right? And it's gonna be WWE, right? And you like I've capped on this before, like brothers fighting each other, and like I give them a pass. They came out the same womb, so they don't want to fight each other. They don't want to fight each other. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'll give them the pass. But now I'm hearing like Shakur can't fight Keyshawn Davis because Keyshawn Davis, that's his brother. It's like, no, wait a second. That's not your brother. That's your friend. That's your friend. You don't get a pass. Y'all in the same weight class. If y'all run into each other, you'll need to fight. It's like Andre Ward versus Andre Durrell, right? There's still people out there claiming that Andre Durrell needed to get a CAT scan or whatever. No, they refused to fight each other in the Super Six. That's what happened because they saw each other. I think
it was Durrell that didn't want to fight, actually.
Andre Durrell didn't want to fight Andre Ward because he saw him as a brother. No. You're friends. You are friends. Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson are friends. If you have to fight each other, you need to fight each other.
They hang out together.
On that. You didn't come out of the same womb. You are friends.
But he said that they hang out together and that they were just at a cookout together. He said,
whatever they're at, you need to fight if you run into each other. That's what needs to happen. But the coddling, it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. These guys are really close friends, and no, fight each other.
Can you imagine Inoue and Nakatani saying that, hey, we're brothers, bro. We're not gonna fight each other.
And how would that go? How did it go in the interwebs when Lomachenko and Baranchik? Oh, they can't fight each other because they're both Ukrainian.
Remember when Canelo said, I don't want to fight a Mexican brother. You know
how did that go?
Like remember all the shit Canelo got for saying he didn't want to fight one of his own countrymen?
How did that go?
Okay, this is box. What do you mean? Like, you know, where's that energy with this?
And that's not even really what he said. But even if he did, like you can't give it a pass. He needs to fight him. If they run into each other, they need to fight. And that's what I'm seeing. It's like, can y'all stop giving these dudes passes? Well, he can't. He's been gone a year and a half because of this promoter and this manager. Can the dude fight? Can he fight? And can he preferably fight somebody with a pulse? Can we do that? Can we not put this fight on pay-per-view? Can we please tell the dude that he's not worth this? He's not worth this amount of money. Well, you can't do that because of fighter empowerment and all this stuff. It's just frustrating, man. And they can't put two and two together and realize that this is why American boxing sucks. It's because of outside of the Mexican American.
But there's a lot of enabling going on, Calix.
Yeah, but outside of the Mexican American boxing bubble, the sport in America sucks. It's atrocious. So it's because we hold these other fighters. It's because we expect Inoue to come to America, even though he already has. We expect him to come here because we can't have him bum bashing out in Japan and then stacking his gloves, his thing, stacking his wrap.
That's a great point. Like it's why are we the mecca of boxing? Exactly. Like, why is the U.S. where you need to come to quote unquote prove yourself? Maybe that was the case before, but why is that still like? Well, I don't understand where people are getting that from. Like now, right? Like that is some delusional thinking if you think that's still the case. But I'm going to tell you, Kelly, there's a lot of enablers. Like, unfortunately, we have promoters like Eddie Hearn that want to recreate a Mayweather, right? So they start overpaying, so some of these fighters like that. That's why that was his vision with Devin Haney.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then when Shakur turned down the offer with Top Rank, well, Eddie Hearn swooped right in, and he's like, "Wow, I think this guy could be the next Mayweather." Like, you know what I mean? So that's what's happening. Like, there's a lot of enabling that's going on, quite frankly.
They've been enabling for years, as far as, well, it makes perfect sense for an Australian guy to fight a UK guy in Oklahoma, which I happen to think is a beautiful state full of beautiful people. You hate it. You hate Oklahoma, but I love Oklahoma. All I'm saying is a boxing
I don't
event
hate
between
Oklahoma. Texas is just better. That's all. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
you don't like it.
Oklahoma used to be part of Texas, right? And like we were like, what part do we like not want? You know what I mean? Because
What
at the
part
time
has
there was like there was some political divide going on in the country, and when the U.S. annexed Texas, they were like, you got to give us some, like, you can't have it all one state. So you got to give us some. So we're like, you know what, that top part up there, we don't want it. Like, just
the one with the not so attractive women and the tornadoes. Y'all can have,
get there. Like, just take that part right there.
all I'm saying is, look, I got a lot of respect for Oklahoma and Oklahomans. A lot of respect.
Love Oklahoma.
Beautiful state. But a dude from Australia should not be fighting a dude from UK there. And then a dude from Cuba should not be fighting in Minneapolis. And then a dude from Philadelphia should probably be fighting.
An Australian and a Russian shouldn't be fighting in Florida. I love Florida.
Yeah, a Philadelphia guy should probably not go 6 years without fighting in Pennsylvania, and probably shouldn't be fighting on undercards in Los Angeles, etc. But I bring it up because I've been told for years these things need to happen, and this is smart business, right? Site fees is smart. This is smart. You can't possibly understand the 8D chess that goes on in these boardrooms, the intelligent business. You're just a boxing fan, and you guys are really dumb. And this stuff needs that. You don't understand why Brian Norman Jr. would turn down 1.7 to fight. You're not possibly intelligent enough to understand it. Stay down there. And then they'll start to, when Turkey Al-Sheikh comes around and enters the stage and starts bringing everything east, what happens? Oh my God, we can't have fights over there. We need to put fights where they belong. I don't like that atmosphere over there. That's not good. It's not good to have two Americans fighting in Saudi Arabia. This is not good for boxing. This is terrible for boxing to have it over there. We have sports washing. No. You guys lost. You guys lost the ability. You lost your opportunity to speak out on this issue. You can't talk on it anymore. For years, we were telling you this fight doesn't belong there. That fight doesn't belong there. That's why these fights aren't selling. That's why none of these fights fighters are promotable. That's why all these fighters can walk into any mall in America.
Timothy Bradley against Devin Alexander in the Silver Dome.
In the Silver Dome. They put all kind of fights where they don't belong. All the time. Every weekend they're doing this. And I talked about it for 10 years. And these dudes are like, shut up. You don't understand. You don't understand how intelligent these people are. How dare you speak on them? And then all of a sudden, these people want to turn around when a dude from Saudi Arabia comes around and say, wait a second. We can't have this. We can't have fighters fighting in Saudi. We can't do this. We can't do it.
The best part, Alex, is the look, we say this too, but for them to say it is rich. So when they bring up I mean, they're just throwing out money out there. It's not these fighters don't really generate that. The Saudis are just throwing the money out there. But the thing is that y'all been doing this for years,
and we've been consistent on it.
But the only difference is that the Saudis are throwing money out there, and it's actually fights we like. A lot of y'all were throwing fights out there.
Before they were like, why are you against fighters getting paid? Aren't you?
Yeah, remember when we got Caleb Plant versus Caleb Truax, right? As a main event on Fox. And that's supposed to grow the sport of boxing. That's supposed to get people interested, right? Mr. T, but the taxes, Cali X. Think about the taxes. That's why they went to say the taxes more in New York.
How many times did Caleb Plant, the only white American fighter that's any good, maybe you want to do some outreach to white America. How many times did this dude fight in Tennessee? How many times did this dude fight at all? Maybe you should just want to try to market this guy to white America since he's the only white American. These dudes are so dumb, and they're being passed off as geniuses. And constantly they want to diffuse conversations with, you don't understand you're underestimating the genius of Al Haymon. No, I think what this dude is doing is a scam. You guys just hate PBC. Yes, I do. I don't like any of them, to be quite honest with you, but especially that one, who they've been accelerating the demise of American boxing. Yes, I do. I don't like them, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But you dudes are trying to turn around and say, we can't have fights in Saudi because it's not good. These fighters belong fighting over here. Since when? Since when do fighters belong fighting where they belong? Since when has that happened? Not since
it has to be it has to be in the U.S.
These dudes are fighting on Indian reservations just because they get the highest site fee. And all respect to Indian reservation people, I love them. But
man, he's just attacked the Native Americans, bro.
No, all I'm saying is just
like they're not American.
Oklahomans, that's not a big hotbed for boxing. Are Indian reservations a big hotbed for boxing? Right? Maybe you should put a Philadelphia fighter in Philadelphia. Maybe you should put a Miami fighter. Maybe you should put a Cuban in South Florida. I don't know.
Here's what I want to know. So Brian Norman Jr., right, and his team they were very concerned about the high taxes in Pennsylvania, right? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I just looked up the highest tax states, right? So here is New York, right? Number one.
Oh man, that's not gonna be good.
I wonder where Pennsylvania is at. Like.
Uh-oh.
No, not there yet. I mean, Washington. Well, look at that. 10. So that's too high, Calix. I mean, 10.6%.
So he would say 6% on taxes? Oh my God. So you're telling me, I wonder if he knows. I wonder if Brian Norman Jr.'s team knows that they're going to be fighting in the highest tax state. I wonder if they know.
I mean,
maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know.
I don't know. The commission's pretty good.
I mean, it's not because it's just not smart. 1.7 is it seems to be the number that, like, you fight for 1.7, the taxes are going to crush you. 150,000 on a female undercard in New York, taxes are okay then. The taxes will be fine then.
So how much do you know how much he's making in New York or no?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's not 1.7.
After tax.
Once again, where's Brian Norman Jr. from? Is he from New York? Is he from there? Where's he from? Do we even know? Because I mean, they don't market him well. I'm gonna look it up right now. Brian Norman Jr. Let's see where he's from. Maybe he's from New York. He's from Decatur, Georgia. So there you go. Because it makes perfect sense to put fighters from Georgia fighting in New York with a 16% tax. But that's what I'm saying. Like, since when do we put fighters in places where they belong? Since when do we promote them regionally out anymore? There used to be a time like Roy Jones,
the Mohegan Sun's where it's at, bro.
Yeah, Mohegan Sun.
That's a universal spot.
Look, Boots Ennis, like it's making sense now. Philadelphia, and then you put them right there at AC, and you can get a crowd in AC. Boots Ennis.
I've never in my life, bro, heard anyone say anything remotely like, man, I fucking hate taxes. I don't want to get taxed. So the next business move I do, I'm going to New York. Like, what are we doing? What's going on here, bro?
The next business move I'm going to do, I'm going to fight for 10% of what I don't like being taxed. So I'm going to make 10% of what I could have made. And then I'm going to go to the highest tax state in the country. Genius. This is the genius 8D chess that these dudes are playing that we can't possibly understand. You're damn right I can't understand it. You're damn right I can't understand it. You're right about that. I can't possibly understand and fathom these business moves.
We need Stephen Hawkins out here to do the math here, bro. Like we
remember Matt Damon at the hallway, Goodwill Hunting? He was like,
Yeah,
he was like
gotta be,
putting it together. That's me. I've been trying to put this math together for like 15 years. This
Have you
dude's
seen that
fighting,
meme, that GIF?
this dude's fighting at the Indian reservation, and this dude's fighting in Oklahoma, and he's Australian and he's UK, and they're fighting in Oklahoma, and this dude's from Decatur, Georgia, and he's fighting in the highest taxed state in the country, and it's like a 4-hour flight. This makes perfect sense to them, and we can't question it because this is the 8D chess. You can't possibly understand this, D-Style. You cannot understand it. But
How
now
do you
it's supposed to
possibly
be,
make the argument
now
that
it's
you have
supposed to be up in arms.
but this
Because
was like you got to understand that this was like a point that we're making. No, like they want us to go fight in that state. There's a high tax. It's like that was one of their main points. So I'm thinking maybe you want to come fight in Texas or maybe
Vegas.
Florida, or like that's a demand. You're gonna go to New York.
Florida, last I checked, and I didn't get an A+ in geography, but last I checked, Florida is closer to Decatur, Georgia than New York is. So I don't know, maybe they could have done that and escaped 16% in taxes. But all of a sudden, I'm supposed to care about these dudes fighting in Saudi Arabia. Because that's not good, because we can't possibly build dudes in Saudi Arabia. It just doesn't make sense. People can't get out there. Yeah, you know what? You know what else people can't do? They can't get to an Indian reservation. People can't fly to Oklahoma
And by the way,
on the
I want to
weekend and go
respond.
see a UK. Do you think UK and Australian dudes are going to fly to Oklahoma to watch a fight?
Oklahoma.
Do you think that dudes, look, this is the cheapest fight you're going to have in Vegas. They didn't even set up the ring at the MGM for this weekend at the entrance. And you're still paying a couple $100, and God only knows. Dude, you pay $18 for a smart water in Vegas. $18. You think you already priced out the boxing fans? What are you talking about? You dudes, you boxing writers, American boxing writers have been missing the point. You've been missing the story, and you've failed to write about this for 10, 15, 20 years. How the common folk, the common boxing fan has been priced out of the sport already. And now you dudes are trying to catch up. Now you dudes are like, how is anybody going to afford going to Saudi Arabia? Oh my God, it's too expensive out there.
Can I
Oh
preemptively? I want to preemptively respond.
Saudi Arabia.
Look, I want to preemptively respond because no one's in the chat saying this, but I know this is going to happen. Oh, you guys are pocket watching. I know that's going to be a very that's another one, right? That's a way to shame people to not talk about like all this shit. Look, I don't think you guys know what pocket watching even means. That's number one. Second, here's the issue. I wanted to see Brian Norman Jr. fight Butsenis. I thought that was a great fight. I didn't get the fight. And the reason I didn't get the fight, I was told, is because they're lowballing Brian Norman Jr., right? He's worth more because he has a belt now, right? And I was told that 1.7 million is a lowball offer. A lot of you guys were co-signing that. I'm the one pocket watching, but you guys are the ones watching the 1.7 million saying, oh, that's not enough money, right? But I'm being told all that, and I didn't get a fight I wanted, right? Right, and not only that, it's affecting the sport as a whole, right? It's affecting fights we want to see because supposedly all these fighters are getting lowball offers, and they got to take these better offers. But now Brian Norman Jr. is going to be fighting for way less, and he's fighting in a state that taxes more. I'm just wondering, right? In that case, why can't I just get the fucking fight I wanted then? Because at the end of the day, that's all I fucking care about. The fights I want to see, right? That's what I care about. At the end of the day, that's what I want. And I want to take it to this, right? So I want to bring up the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan. Now, Calix thinks it's LeBron, but like I'm not going to go the way. I don't want to start this whole debate or make it about LeBron. But this is like, I always go back to Michael Jordan because I think it applies specifically a lot to boxing, and maybe it applies a lot to other sports as well, right? But he's always talked about how players in the league are compensated and giving these shoe deals and they're giving all this money up front, and then now they're not really incentivized to go out there and do great things in the court to earn it, right? There's no one. They're not incentivized to earn it the way he had to kind of earn it, right? The way other players in this era have to kind of earn those big marketing deals, right? And how he feels it affected the game. And in my opinion, this applies a lot to boxing as well, right? A lot of fighters are getting paid off of potential. They're not getting paid off of the real market value, right? And there's a lot of losses being taken up front, right? And what happens is like these promoters think that the fighters are going to be like, oh, wow, I'm so grateful that you took all these losses from me. So when I do become a big name, I'm totally going to like reward you so you get your return in your investment. But that's not what happens. The moment, like two things happen. If they do become a big name, they don't stick around so you could reap the benefits of your investment. That's number one. Second, most of the time, because that's just the way it works, they don't live up to their potential. They don't generate anything, but now they're delusional and they think they're worth more than what they're actually worth, right? And what that does, it impacts everything. Other fighters see that. And when you reward fighters by overpaying them, other fighters see that, so they act accordingly, right? Brian Norman Jr. wouldn't have done this if it was just 10 years ago. Right? 1.7 million is a lot of money. It's life-changing money. And it's way above his market value. He should have taken that money, especially if he believes he could win. And if he loses, so what? You go back you keep fighting, you can still make money. You're telling me right now he wouldn't make any less money fighting on this undercard if he was coming off a loss to Boots Ennis than right now. I think he'd make about the same, around the same ballpark, quite frankly. But imagine what he would have made if he would have won, right? So what I'll say, Kyle, before I get to Super Chat, I'll give you the final word before we close out, is the sport needs to find a way to reward fighters that take risk, right? And the rewards and the money they make should be adequate to the risk that they're taking, right? And the accomplishment should also make sense with the reward that you're giving them, right? If we're gonna be paying them above market value, if a fighter is a big name and you could generate without all that stuff, then whatever, I get it, it's a free market. But the way it works in a real free market, right? Okay, if you're gonna pay somebody above market value, you need to be getting something in return. Right? It should be a net loss all the way around, right? And I'll read this and then Calix can go and we'll close out. Mr. T, they didn't care about boxing fans' pockets until the stable that the scrotum cuddle started getting financially bullied by the hand-holding oil goon. Man, scrotum cuddling. That's a new one.
2025, and in 2025, people, boxing fans and boxing writers need to stop scrotum coddling. The scrotum coddling is done. We need to stop the scrotum coddling.
Is that a new saying?
It is now. It is a saying now. So no more scrotum coddling. So one thing I want to say, I want you to look at that picture that Turkey took with all the fighters at that ring award show, whatever, and see how dangerously close his hand came to grasping Canelo's hand. It's like that close. That close. I think
Melania like slapped out Trump's hand like that. That's what Canelo's gonna do.
No. I'm telling you, I think this alliance is gonna happen in September, and I think that hand grab is gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen. I want to see whose hand is on top, though. That's what I'm looking forward to. But in all seriousness, what I'll say is, to close it out, Benavidez, Morrell Jr., although it's not going to move the meter, I think it is a good matchup. I'm expecting fireworks, and I think it's going to be an action-packed fight. And ultimately, I lean slightly with the upset for Morrell Jr., slightly. And then in the undercard fight, I agree with you. Figueroa, I think Figueroa is going to beat Fulton Jr. I think his trajectory is going up. And Fulton Jr., just the inactivity, the new weight class, and he looked terrible in his last fight. So that as far as this weekend goes. Pacheco last weekend, Pacheco and Andy Cruz both look flawed, but guess what? Throw them in there. Let's see what they do in a title fight. Let's throw them in there with bigger fights. Why not? I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing. And to the last point, I'm tired of seeing these boxing writers in America miss the point. And then later on, when it becomes a trend to jump onto these things, all of a sudden want to jump onto these things when it's easier to do. They missed the inactivity boat. They missed the boat, although they want to jump on it now. They missed the boat of this fight doesn't belong here. That fight doesn't belong there. That fight, we've been on that one. You and I have been on that one for 15 years, saying this fight doesn't belong there. It doesn't, but Andre Berto should not be fighting there. This guy shouldn't. I saw Andre Berto fight Luis Collazo in Biloxi, Mississippi, D-style. I was front row and I was comped because nobody would go, because you're in redneck central. You're in the redneck capital of the country and you got a Haitian American fighting a Puerto Rican American. Why is this here? And then Lou DiBella wants to get on his soapbox. Oh, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be. You shouldn't have been doing that. And all these dudes want to jump on a soapbox late. You can't do it now. We've seen you for too many years ignore these issues, and all of a sudden now you want to say we can't have these fights.
Lou's always, I mean, he always does things with other people's money.
St. Lou.
Yeah,
St. Lou. But now all of a sudden we can't properly build these fighters in Saudi. Well, we're gonna find out, aren't we? We can't have the proper atmosphere. We can't have the proper atmosphere in Saudi. Oh, you had it in Oklahoma? You had it in Biloxi, Mississippi? You had it at the Mohegan Sun? The epicenter of American boxing, Mohegan Sun? And all of a sudden it's going to be an issue because a dude from Saudi Arabia is coming and these dudes aren't going to have the money to properly cover the sport. That's what the problem is. They don't want to fly. They're either too lazy or they don't have the money to fly to Saudi and cover these boxing.
If you don't like it, don't buy it. Yeah, people listen to you guys. They didn't buy anything.
Yeah, so respectfully, F off with this. We're not listening. We're not listening. I'm gonna enjoy my stat card for $25 in a couple weeks. I'm gonna enjoy the hell out of it, and I'm gonna have a good time. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Well, guys, we've been on for a minute, so we appreciate everybody that tuned in. It's been a while. We'll see you, hopefully next week. We'll figure that one out. We've got to clear Calix's clearance to get access. I don't know what happened. People are going to blame me like, oh, it was you. Like I don't know what happened, but we'll get all that sorted out. Thank you all for tuning in. This is D-Style Boxing for Calix. We're out. Peace.